Your journey has been so wild. For anyone who doesn't know you, from like the underworld of addiction and homelessness to stewarding a spiritual community to forming a transnational political party. It's like wild. But I'm curious, I want to kind of go into this topic of power and talk about a little bit about how your life has prepared you to navigate power differently.
Yeah, we'll start with a really deep question. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not wasting any time
we
here.
dive straight in. Yeah, I mean, I feel for all of us who take a path that's really dedicated to our essence and our soul, there are certain things that come really naturally, and there are certain things which are harder. And I think for me, some pieces around power and leadership have felt very natural. It's something that's felt very, it's like, I know these things. I know how to do this, you know, in terms of leadership in various ways. It's felt natural. Supporting other people in leadership development, it's felt very natural. Of course, I am learning all the time, and I mess up at times, and I grow and I learn and I see my shadows, and all of that is ongoing. I have felt like the pain I've experienced in my life and the terrors and the traumas that I've experienced in my life have humbled me and tenderized me in a way that has been good for my leadership and has been good for the work I'm trying to do in the world. I generally get a sense that I'm more trustable because of the places where I've been broken, basically. So there are ways that my own vulnerabilities and the pain I've experienced have made me more available to the journey around clean power, which is something that I care about deeply, because I care deeply about the evolution of the way that we relate to power, the leadership of our world, you know, whether that's teachers and people in positions of influence in our communities, or whether it's at broader scale. So, and I have just felt myself really with how messed up our relationship to power is and how shadowy our relationship to power is. And it's one of the kind of the dark trifecta in a certain way of power, sex, and money, where we've just got so much stuff.
You referred to something that you called clean power. I wonder if you can share a little bit more about what is clean power.
Yeah, so I'd say that for me, that relates to both what is the kind of power that we're talking about and also how it comes through a person. So for me, in the deeper sense, power is a frequency of life. It's a frequency of source. It's not something that just exists in a position of formal authority. It's not something that's created when someone gives you a name tag or, you know, a corner office or something like that. It's not something that just pops into being when we agree that you have a certain position that I don't have. You know, that's human mind created power. But for me, power is like love. You know, the way I describe it sometimes is just like two people on a path of relationship realize at a certain point that love isn't just something that they create with each other, but love is a reality. Love is a reality that they learn to more and more deeply participate in. And how scientists are increasingly discovering there's some incredible intelligence that orders the structure of this cosmos that we're a part of. For me, power is, it's a reality. It's a frequency of source, and it's something that can come through us if we make ourselves available to it. And that power is the life force of source. It is a living current of electricity and life, and it has will and intelligence and love in it, and it wants to open us and open life to more of itself, more nakedly and transparently, and take us on an incredible adventure. That's real power to me. And that's very different to the power that is activated by people's agendas and opinions that come from their separate selves that are trying to get their thing or, you know, work out their own plans, which is basically what runs the world. So that's in terms of what is the power that we're actually talking about. And then whether it comes through a person cleanly, how does it come through a person? How much of a clean window am I to that? Or how much am I, a window that needs a bunch of scrubbing? How much? So, because you'll know this as well as I know this, and we'll know this about ourselves in various ways. Like I learned a really important lesson years ago when I observed the ways that power came through me, sometimes in ways that was deeply empowering for the people around me. And sometimes it came through me in ways where people felt really deeply disempowered. And I got really interested in that. Like, what's going on in those moments? Like, what's happening in me and how this is coming through me in those moments where someone actually feels really deeply disempowered by how something in me has shown up in a space. And then that takes us into the whole conversation around my shadows, my traumas, my, all the things in us which obstruct the clean flow of real power through us. And so, yeah, when I talk about clean power, part of it is what are we actually sourcing ourselves in? And the other part is what's it coming through? And how much has there been enough healing, essentially, and shadow work and self-reflection and meeting ourselves in all the places that call for us to return to ourselves for it to come through cleanly.
Wow. I'm so appreciating you right now. And yeah, I'm so appreciating you for the work that I can feel and hear and see that you're continuing to take yourself through to be able to show up in this way.
Thank you.
I want to connect now power to soul. I think there's a beautiful meeting point here. And maybe there's even some more, like coming through the personal channel with you. I have the understanding or the suspicion that there's been a lot of moments for you where everything gets stripped away. And what became clear to you about your soul purpose in those moments of everything being stripped away?
I love this. I love the questions. These are strong questions, to the core questions. May it always be this way. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've had many experiences in my life of my deepest fears happening, and whether those have been in the context of relationship or also during the years that I was homeless, where a number of times I found myself in circumstances where the things that I feared most happened. And to feel myself on the other side of those experiences, to feel how my lungs were still breathing and my heart was still beating and I'm still here, somehow I'm still here. And to feel the will in my heart. And I think that's what I source myself in most deeply in terms of what you're talking about. I've always felt that there is a will in my heart. There is a life force in my heart that wants that aliveness more in this world, that wants to call myself and those I'm in contact with into really being here in all the power and the beauty and the extraordinary nature of this moment, and feeling what we create from there. What do we do now? If we're in that place, if we're actually in that space of availability to the miracle that is this life. So, yeah, and I feel that there've been more and more layers of that over the years, of that stripping away. And in the process, I have felt more and more of myself get activated and inspired and shown in certain ways what I can hold, what I can try to hold that's in service of what I'm trying to be in service to, and I've had many phases of where I've had strong periods of download and inspiration that have come around what I feel I'm going to try and do. And one of those particularly is, the transnational political work, for instance, where I had months where I was just in the fire of that and having it land in me, the vision for what it wanted to be, and being broken open by it, and also not wanting it, and not having my own process of really that really, and then accepting it deeply. But I can often feel when I'm in those phases that I'm available to them because of where I've been willing to go within myself. And that's something which I've contemplated quite a lot recently, actually, where I felt more and more how, I used to consider myself someone who was uncommonly traumatized. I used to consider myself someone who had a bit more than most people in terms of the levels of trauma and the prevalence and what's the word I'm looking for? How consistently I would have trauma activated states that would just take me down, and that was my life for, I think that was just my life up until maybe 7 or 8 years ago or so. And of course, when you're in that kind of state where you're being so regularly taken into hell, that's a good motivator, for doing your work. But once I reached a point, and I think this happens for all of us in a certain way, where once we reach a point where our healing has progressed to a certain point where we're not getting taken down into hell so often, there's more choice then around, okay, well, do I cruise more now? Because I don't need to actually descend into these places within myself and meet myself in all the last places there for my life to retain a basic level of functionality. But I could, and I think for me, in ways that have been supported by life prodding me and poking me and taking me into some very tender places, but still because of choice, I have continued to go to those places within myself. And I've really been sat with that recently. What a factor on the continuation of the path that choice is, to continue to go there, not for the survival of myself or the psychological or emotional survival of myself, but because it really is, it is what love in me knows I must do.
Yeah. I really love this piece that you bring in around there being a choice now, and what an upgrade that is to not be just taken down at any moment. And one of the questions that I was going to ask you, which is so beautiful because you already seeded it, was around the role of self-initiation in healing our trauma.
Yeah. If I'm honest, Rachel, I think that's what differentiates a lot of people. I think what it takes to keep going and to keep going there and to keep going there and to keep going there, not in a way which is self-flagellating or, you're not just throwing yourself into hell, because, that's not what I'm talking about, but to continue to be more interested in where deeper and deeper levels of love and integrity within ourselves will take us than a comfortable life, and to be more interested in truth, even when it's uncomfortable and painful and embarrassing or, vulnerable. To keep turning towards that, I think is what it takes, And I'm also mindful that when I think about this, sometimes I'm like, well, I'm a being with a limited capacity as well, and I wonder about the beings that I have greater capacity than I do, and I want to learn from them in various ways, and to witness their example of the levels of integrity and dedication that they embody and exemplify that can nourish mine. Yeah. So, but I think I know that some of the most catalytic periods of healing, which have also been profoundly difficult, have come because I have sounded a note deep within my being. Bring it. I'm here for this. I mean, one of those was 10 years ago, 2015, where I had a massive health year where I had 3 major health issues that happened that all came after I just felt myself so impacted by where I felt the world was going. And there was this one morning that I went to my altar, and I just got out of bed and went to my altar, and I had to pray. And my prayer was, okay, I know that there are beings of the world needs beings of levels of compassion and capacity and service like never before, and whatever is needed to fast track my karmic cleanup so that I can play my role in that process, bring it now, you know. And yeah, and I learned that sometimes you get what you pray for, you know. Yeah. And I also remember a friend of mine after that, where I told him about it, and he was like, John, John, gentle brother, gentle, you know. And but
you don't always have to take the hero dose.
Right, yeah, it was a hero dose moment. And but I also know that, I mean, that was something that went on that period for a year and a half, and it was extremely challenging. And I also know I was dramatically freer after it. And so I learned in that we really do have choice for opening up the hatch, as it were, like opening up the hatch. I'm like, okay, you can send some more down for me to work through. And I also learned to be more compassionate. I learned that we have choice in that regard. I can initiate that process, and I can also be compassionate to myself about the pace and my level of capacity for a particular phase of my life. Yeah. So like I'm a parent just like you. And for the first few years of my son's life, that was not the time for that, you know.
Yeah.
I was very full with other things, which were triggering and challenging enough in various ways, and nourishing and beautiful enough, but also definitely at my capacity enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. I really love this too, of just the gratitude and acceptance and gift that it is to receive these deeper, challenging moments, like the upgrade that's available, rather than it's like, it's not always that something's happening to me, but for me.
Yeah.
Even though in those moments, I wouldn't want anyone to say that to me. Yeah. But I really get it. And I have this like existential question of with Earth, like, why does it have to be this way? Like, why do the deepest, most impactful teachings always come from these challenging, hard-earned moments? And this like, can they come from the light, beautiful experiences as well? It seems like it doesn't. And it's just one of the laws of life that I have to surrender to.
And it puts pressure on our kind of attachment to the spiritual brochure that we were, you know, that we kind of took on or downloaded from the ethers at some point at the beginning of the path of where this is going to lead, you know. And
where is the love and light?
Right. And that it's going to lead us to, you know, just more of a radiant life where we're shining our light and, you know, all of this. And there is a truth to that side. There is a truth to that. But there's also a cost, you know, and there's a ticket or many tickets again and again. And one of our mutual brothers and kind of teachers in a certain way, Bruce, I remember him saying to me once when I was talking to him just about what I'd been through in the first years of fatherhood, and he said, some of the initiations of life, we would never say yes if we knew what was in store for us.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make a little gear shift now and talk a little bit more about your work, which I'm really excited to talk about, because I've been watching from a distance. I haven't been in your field in some time, so I'd love to get now a little deeper download. And I would love to start with Avatar and just having you share around the mystical transmission at the heart of Avatar.
So the mystical transmission at the heart of Avatar, for me, is about what we really are, what we humans really are. And I've had multiple points in my life where some of the biggest peak experiences I've ever been through have been ones that have broken me completely open in an experience of what we truly are, and the majesty of what we truly are, and the sacredness of what we truly are, and the dignity of what we truly are on a planetary and even wider context, and have shown me the split that exists in all of our souls, because we just have not been able to hold that whilst we're in this world and we're surrounded by the fuckery and the tragedy and the pain and the trauma and the drudgery and the pettiness. And we just have not been able to hold to what some part of our soul has never forgotten. And there's a split in us around that. And so the mystical core of Avatar is about the healing of that split, really in its deepest sense. We do a lot of stuff around that, and beyond that, and various other layers of the human being and so on. But at its core, it's about the remembrance of what we truly are as humanity, as one sacred life that is here for something that we haven't even begun to imagine yet.
And how do you land that in a group field?
Just like you, I'm also someone who's been in the lab for a really long time. You know, I'm also a facilitator who has been trying things and watching how it goes and learning and making notes and updating my program and, you know, trying this a little bit different next. And Avatar has really begun soaring and emerging over the last few years, really since I think 2023. And yeah, it's not so long, but in that time, there's been a level of emergence that has been an entirely different level of momentum for this work. And I was in the kitchen for 13 years before that. You know, so I've been trying to cook this dish and learn how to cook this dish for a really long time. And, you know, with my little notebook and taking little tastes and offering my spoon to other people, like, taste that, see how it tastes, you know. And I mean, I did stuff for years that was just, I ran events where I just asked people to pay for their own accommodation and food for certain events that I did. Cause I was just like, I don't have a reputation at that point that's big enough to attract all of these people. Like, I just need you in the room. I need your soul as a yes. I need you in the room and let's do some work, you know? And I learned so much from that stuff, and I don't do it that way now. And I make good money from my events now and so on, which feels really good. But I've just been going with the learning process meticulously and deeply for years. I'm also really lucky to work with other really good facilitators and we have extensive conversations about how to deepen this particular experience for people or create that particular experience. And I would say specifically one thing that has become a very powerful part of the work that I'm involved in is ritual. And there are certain rituals that we've developed within Avatar that I'm at a point now with it where I've really realized how powerful the ritual technology is that we've created. And I'm really interested by that process as well, because I still don't feel myself naturally as a really like ritual person. You know, like I know loads of other people, the Berlin witches that we both know, you know, it's like they live and breathe ritual. I'm not that person, you know, I'm not that kind of person. It's really been a learning curve for me to really learn how to create rituals. There's multiple people over the years. So I was just like, can you tell me how you do that? And but I really took it in and developed it. And I've had help. I've really had help from various people, but I feel at this stage with Avatar, there are just pretty extraordinary things that happen in the rituals that we do almost at every event. I mean, it's pretty wild, some of the stuff that opens at this point. And, the last retreat? The last retreat that I ran in person was in Sicily. And there's a particular peak point of that ritual where at exactly the moment that I gave that instruction, which is that moment of the group opening in that way, there was a lightning flash that came and rainbows and, a storm that, and it's like stuff like that's happening, and I'm just like, okay, this is, I can feel the purity of what we're trying to do, and I can feel, to be honest, I feel forces rising that are with us. And I'm humble with that as well, because my honest experience with Avatar is I can feel there's something else that has some momentum that's moving it, and it's being picked up by life in some way that was not how it was when I was in the kitchen for 13 years before that. That felt heavy. It felt like pushing a boulder up a hill, and it rolled down sometimes. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go and have to go and get it again and try and push it again. And so I have observed that something has changed. And my observation is that life uses things sometimes, and it feels like this is being used in a certain way, and the wind is behind it. The wind will go somewhere else at some point, and that's okay, and I and we are just trying to stay as purely aligned with what we're dedicated to as we can.
To quote my favorite series right now, the Vikings, the gods are with you.
It feels that way.
It's like the gods are with you. Yeah.
And it also, I feel like with Avatar, I have been given the opportunity to learn how to develop a project in a way that is really of benefit to my development of Singularity. Because Singularity is an entirely different ask. And actually, when I moved between those projects, I realized, inviting people to come and be part of a multidimensional soul initiatory self-development retreat is not so challenging compared to asking people to come and make themselves vulnerable enough to feel their longing underneath all the layers of calcification and cynicism and hardness and coldness on their heart, which are the normal responses to the political fuckery and pain and abuses of power that we're surrounded by all the time. To be willing to go to that place and not just feel their longing, but then actually have enough belief and trust for us to try and build something radically different and to do that transnationally, right? With a bunch of people who aren't there to have an experience to get something, but for us to build something together, it's entirely different. So, I feel, but the lessons I have learned with Avatar, and I continue to learn with Avatar, I feel like they provide me with a foundation for the lessons that what needs to be integrated and how I take forward Singularity. So I feel the intelligence and the timing of it all. Yeah.
Wow, I have a really similar, at a different scale, thing happening inside of me between like the field and training facilitators and leaders, and then more of the embodied relational and intimacy work, and how they're totally needed, but it's like, and once I've asked people to step into field facilitation, asking them to just relate in this simple way is okay. That's a completely different ask.
So you find that it moves from the field to the other side. Tell me about that. How does that how do they influence each other?
Well, the work of embodied relating and embodied intimacy is field facilitation at its heart. But the perspective that people have when they're doing the relational work is much more personal. And I'm asking them to step into the meta when we do field work. And so that's you have to access a different part of you where it's not about the personal anymore. It's about the group. It's about the collective. And just making that shift is it's awkward and crunchy for people, or to that, the portal through the personal is actually how we get to the transpersonal. Even that pathway is so unfamiliar.
I totally feel you. My observation is that there has to be something that turns on in a person's soul for them to be available for that. And I think we all have that switch. We all have that switch, but there is a shift. It's all, it's beautiful.
I would love to hear from you around your what collective awakening would mean from your perspective.
And I feel like I can sense different possibilities there. I mean, just at least two or maybe three are, I can feel one version of collective awakening is when a collective, a group can start to feel themselves as a single entity, like a single organism, which itself is an exhilarating experience. I know in my life, some of the most exhilarating times of group work have been where that magical cocktail of whatever it's been has come together enough in a group field for me and someone else to be able to look into each other's eyes and both feel at the same time very clearly there's something else that wants to come through us and to come through this group field, which is beyond any of our individual points of view, as it were. So just for a group to actually start to transition from individual consciousness into we consciousness and feel that's a real thing. That's a real thing that we can do. And then I would also say that there's further layers of group awakening where there really are deeper levels of intelligence and consciousness in life that can come through group fields. Part of what we do with our events is not just can we support the initiatory process of each individual, but can we recognize this particular collection of individuals that comes together for this event to be one unique constellation, probably never to be repeated, that can offer some deeper presence of the world soul, an opportunity to reveal more of itself through us in that moment, some deeper space of the one humanity to show up and to be felt between us. I have 2 or 3 times in my life come into contact with people who have been part of some extraordinary life-changing group awakening thing that just happened somewhere at some time. And maybe they were deliberately on their way there, or maybe it was some spontaneous thing, but it was a high point of their life, you know, and they talk about it in such a way that's just like, well, there was a before and there was an after that, you know. And often what I've observed is that those people or those groups where that happened submitted themselves to some kind of deep process with each other in a sustained way for a period of time. And for reasons probably no one fully understands, there was some pop that just happened at some point, and people were just kind of aghast in this, like, oh my God, what's happening, you know? And yeah, and just the energy and the wonder and the broken open humility that I've experienced in those people when I've encountered them has had me feel I'm up for that. So, yeah, and it's something we tune into, because I feel like that feels to me so clearly the next thing. It so clearly feels to me like the next thing is us waking up together as that, you know, and having that come through us in a way where, oh, there's creativity and there's love and there's purpose that is flowing through in the creation of something new. It's like some untapped part of our human potential, for the most part, to suddenly enter the we, you know, and the we as a unified field that is transformational to experience. So, and that provides us with an entirely different level of intimacy with our humanity, and an entirely different level of intimacy with life. And it feels like the next thing to me very much.
Wow. So one of my favorite questions to ask facilitators, and this is the perfect time considering where we're at, is how do you listen? Like, what is your process around listening?
Yeah, I feel like I listen both horizontally and vertically. So if I'm facilitating, I'm listening. My horizontal listening is I'm listening to the field, and my heart and my consciousness and my body are all attuned to the bodies of the people in the field, how I sense their hearts, how I sense their bellies. I'm tracking their movement, not in a way that is watchy, but it's just instinctual, I think. And I'm also one way I listen as well as I listen to people's souls in a certain way. I feel like I have learned a capacity to look inside people in a certain way, or to feel where I sense they are in their relationship to that part of themselves, or what's moving for them there, and to do that with a group field as well. So that feels like a horizontal listening process. And then there's vertical listening. And vertical listening for me is where I attune to the energy lines that I know are the deep source of the different areas of my work. And I get on the phone, I tune into, I know Avatar has a different energy stream, which is its deep source of where it comes from, what it is. There have been a number of points where I felt like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this bit. I don't know what to do next. And every single time when that's been the case, I have gone to my alignment with where I can feel that comes from. And I've just asked, I've been like, I don't know how to do this bit. I don't know where this bit goes next. I need some help, and it's been a pretty miraculous experience for me that the guidance has been fully clear every time, fast. So, and that for me also has me feel what it's like to be stewarding something which my experience is that something deeper than me wants this in the world, and so it is supported. It's something that's supported. And part of that support is I can access support. And my capacity to do that relies on also my meditative capacity in a certain way. I have good concentration. I can just be open and still without being distracted. And I can energetically tune into particular energy streams that carry the energetic note that I know the deep source of that is where I want to, that's the line that I want to tune into, or that's the line that I want to tune into. And I can ride that, and just stay there and be anchored in my heart and in a place that's just as open and honest as I can be, and trust, and if something doesn't come, to trust that too. To trust that, okay, then there's something in me which I've not discovered yet.
Wow. This is so beautiful. I just love how you phrase this of asking the questions, and the humility and the humbleness. It's like, I see you kind of on your knees in a moment.
Yeah.
And that's a part of the leadership, is the not knowing, and the being willing to surrender to something bigger than you, showing you the way.
Yeah, and there's various aspects of that. One of the things with Singularity that people don't like sometimes, and people get triggered by, is that it's a political party, right? And people is like, ooh, that smells bad, can't we, Jon? Can't it just be like a political movement, or something like that? And my answer to that is, I received Singularity. Like, it was given to me I had a presence of guidance that I know my connection to that presence, that I had a dream in 2017 that told me, you need to do this. You need to start a transnational political party. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, I have no idea what a transnational political party even is, I was like, and then I started to think about it. I was like, well, okay, I guess I can think about what that could be, but it doesn't make any sense, like why would you create a transnational political thing? It's like that we have national politics. That doesn't make any sense, But it took me years to really, have it land in me. And then in 2020, it was like the dam just broke, and suddenly it all came through, and I was like, oh, that's when I was in this kind of very strong phase of revelation about it. But the answer that I give to people around that question is like, look, don't ask me. Like, I'm just,
don't kill the messenger.
I'm just following my mission papers here, basically, and it has taken time for me to get the wisdom of why it is that. And I'm open to, if there are deeper sources of guidance that tell me at some point, like, actually it's ready to morph into something else. I trust that, that's okay. And I will ask of myself that I don't take that lightly. That would be, change it around just on oh, maybe it's this now, So, and also the other aspect is, if I understand things this way, then it's also really important for me to remember that even though this comes from somewhere beyond me, it's coming through me, and I'm a limited being with blind spots in various areas. I have certain dimensions of my being where I really see things clearly, and I can, I have skills and knowledge in that area, but there's some areas which I have much less, and to not let myself just become blind around that, to keep asking myself the question and to keep going to those sources. Like, what am I not seeing? Is there anything here that actually needs to change, that I need to give more attention to around the unfolding of this work that isn't my natural tendency, because it's not my thing so much there actually, but to keep going back to that guidance and have it remind me of what it wants to be in a way that's beyond and asks for the unfolding of my limitations as a being.
Amazing. Just for people who are tuning in and who don't know, could you explain what Singularity is?
Yeah, for sure. Singularity is the beginnings of a transnational political party anchored in radically different principles to those that run the majority of our politics, basically all of our politics. So the way I describe it these days is that Singularity is an emerging transnational political party that's working towards global governance that is that's anchored in the one source, the one earth, the one humanity, and the one heart by 2050. Yeah, by 2050. So we have cells in multiple different nations that are building the movement of this. We have an international membership that is growing and where we have a really great vibe, and we just have the love and the connection, the sweetness, the dedication, the purpose, the integrity, the purity that exists in this field. I feel really good with and proud of. And my tracking of it all is that if things continue to unfold in the way that we're currently, at the pace we're currently going, maybe 3 years time, maybe 4 years time, we might start to have people who are courageous enough and crazy enough to want to start to represent this politically in the local or regional or national level, eventually politics of their nation. But the point is that what they would be representing there is one earth, one humanity, one heart. And how does that want to express in the political, social, and economic policies of their region or their local area or whatever, rather than my tribal group, whether it's political or religious or, whatever, because I'm a conservative or I'm a liberal, and the particular policies of those polarized camps. So it's about the health, the needs, and the thriving of the one living whole applied to how do we deal with this whole thing? How do we deal with education? How do we deal with conflict? How do we deal with birth? How do we deal with death? How do we deal with, international relations? How do we deal with political polarization? How do we deal with decolonization? How do we deal with the healing of our relationship between people of different backgrounds and cultural backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds? And so these pieces.
Wow. Wow. I will admit, I've been the skeptical one on the sidelines a lot. What are you thinking,
of course,
Jon?
I have that voice in me too.
From the distance.
Yeah, he's got fucking crazy. What's he doing?
But I am so relieved to hear your own relationship to that voice. And as you share about it, I'm like, yeah,
right.
Sense. Yeah, of course. Like I'm totally in now. I'm like, okay, what do I do? How do I sign up? Where do I contribute? There's this really beautiful impact that you're having on me. And I love this too. It also happened for me when I launched the field, and then all of these other field things started coming up. And I'm like, okay, like we're all tapped into a frequency of something next that's arriving through us in different ways. And we just have to keep getting out of the way and allowing it.
Yeah.
Wow. And what you're speaking to, which is so beautiful, because I've been trying to land this in some other conversations. One of the questions I get asked very frequently is, there's like this body of work that's coming through me. And how do I support that? Like, how do I land the body of work that wants to come through me? And I see you right now as being an epic role model of that. And so I wonder, what would you share or say to that question for someone who feels like they have something also that wants to come through as a body of work and land here?
Yeah, it's a great question. One bit at a time. One bit at a time, first of all. And that requires commitment. Like, that requires consistency. It requires that even if, I have parts of Singularity that I feel are present for me that probably won't land for 10 years, just like and am I going to stick around for that? And so there's to be able to feel within ourselves the body of work and to feel its different aspects, and also to give full necessary presence, attention to the birthing of each piece along the way. And my own experience with that as well is that there's a certain level of risk-taking that I have found to be hugely catalytic in the unfolding of deeper and deeper levels of emergence in my work. And to collaborate with good people, get good reflections, and to be willing to be in the development of your craft. And that's the thing, to accept that if you're developing yourself as a facilitator, that's like a decades-long process of developing your craft, and be okay with that. Like, be okay with the fact that you may not have it all perfect in next year, and it's just how it goes. And to be willing to do stuff that doesn't work. I've done so many things that did not work, and I've learned so much from those things, and I think you did that though, right? Just before we close, you did that with the field. I think you've taken some risks with the field.
Oh, I've taken a lot of
risks.
For sure.
Yeah.
Still am. I have a festival this summer. I'm still taking risks, and it's necessary. Like, for sure. It's a part of, it's like these bursts of, people feel me in that willingness, and they rise.
There's something powerful, to feel the life there where someone's giving themselves to something. It's not just like, hey, I'm rocking up and I'm going to facilitate some stuff and earn a bunch of money. Great. It's like, it's someone... No.
I put it all on the line. I'm working for free, and I might lose it all, and I believe in this.
I'm doing it because it matters to me that deeply. Now, can you meet me there? Can we be there together and see what happens? That's so alive.
Yeah. I have two final questions that I'm with, so I'm going to ask them just as like a closing. The first is, what is your personal practice to stay aligned with the one life?
My personal practice, so I have various kind of layers of practice for myself that range from embodied practice to soul alignment to other things. To stay aligned with the one life, for me, it's always been the same, which is I sit in surrender. I sit in surrender, and I offer my life on the altar of letting that life move through me. And I'm clear that everything's on the altar, and I'm in trust, and I'm willing to be penetrated by it. And I sit in that, and I do not move for anything else.
It's kind of hot. It turns me on a bit, too.
Yeah, it's life.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Second question. What do you most want to say to the people who feel called to serve, but they're doubting their worth, their readiness, or their place in it all?
I would say that there is abundant support, guidance, and synchronicity that comes on the other side of the courage to give ourselves to that emergence. And that, yeah, there are forces, huge forces, which feel or seem invisible from the perspective of matrix life, that want our emergence, that want our soul expression, that want more and more expression in the world of what is of love and of sacred purpose and of creativity aligned with life. And they come when we make ourselves available to them. And they come in ways that have us learn new kinds of safety and new kinds of security that are not about reliance on 3D world matrix realm kinds of security and safety and contracts that make sure that you know exactly what you're going to be earning and what your position is in 8 months from now. But if we can tolerate living in our minds, living in the uncertainty, something deeper in us will access levels of security and safety that will bring incredible riches and beauty and healing into our life if we make ourselves available to them. So I think, my experience is that whole thing's like a mating dance with life in a certain way, because it's like, and it asks that you make the first move. You got to make the first move. And then once you've really made the first move, then life responds. Maybe not in the time frame that we're like, exactly what I want, but yeah, you just got to be willing to take the first step and make the first move, I think.